scrolling to the next slide, and I borrowed from a book that I read, which is Outlive, from a doctor called Peter Attia. And he has this concept of medicine 2.0 and medicine 3.0. What's the difference? If you see the graph here, you'll see that this is the life expectation, this line here, and this here is how vital we are in terms of energy. Now, we all want to be vital till the end. Can I ask you what's your age? If it's not rude. 92. Fantastic. Applause to, what's your name, sorry? Edmo. Now, Edmo wants to be living, can I use you as an example? Wants to be living a life where he can function, a life where he can go out in the park, a life where he can live, I don't know, with his grandchildren if you have, or with your children, just to kind of enjoy life with them till the end, not necessarily limited in his functions, limited in his cognitive understanding of life. So when we look at life till the end, it's not so much looking at how much can we live, but how much can we be vital till the moment we die. So medicine 2.0 will show us a curve here. If you see this first curve, this is a bit dodgy. I can't really. Anyway, this first line here has like a medicine 2.0, which means is, let's say we get to the end, to the middle. It's about 50 to 60 years old, 60 years of age, and we start having this first curve, which is very, very, very slow until we get zero, which is death. Okay. Now, medicine 2.0 is everything that you find in hospitals, everything that you find in medicine. You have a problem, you go to the GP, and then if it's serious, they'll make you want to do blood tests, and then from there they'll probably refer you to a specialist, which then either offers you a procedure, if it's the case, or it offers you a treatment according to whatever condition you have. Right, so the life expectation will go down. You still live about 10, 15 years like that on medicine 2.0, but you live with limitations. Limitation of functionality, limitation of cognitive understanding of life. And you start suffering from the moment you get to 60 till the moment you die. It's with pain, it's with problems, it's with side effects, whatever the medicine process. Now, he proposes a second approach, which is medicine 3.0, which is the next line, right? Which goes over the life of 50, 60, 70, 80, and is still living a life with lots of energy, because the middle line here, where it's 50%, this line here, that's your energy level. So see that the comparison between line medicine 3.0, which is only at 50% shortly before death. So you will find that the majority of your energy, you'll have it till about 85. But from 85, there will be a decline of energy. I mean, our friend here, our brother, he can probably tell you that when he was 70, he was still much stronger, right? But after 85, there starts to be a decline, and what should be the causes of whoever dies should be just dying when he's asleep. He didn't wake up. He lived a long, healthy life till the end. And he smiled throughout, he kept his mind sharp. He was not with dementia, he was not with Alzheimer's, he was not with Parkinson. That's how we should be. Now, this author, which I agree with his line of thought, he puts 5 pillars in order to achieve medicine 3.0, or, in this case, a healthy life till the end. And he has 5 pillars, like I said. The first one is exercise. We cannot get till the end with a sharp mind and a sharp body and a functioning body without exercising. I'll go into a bit more detail when we get to the end. Nutrition. We need to look at nutrition as medicine and not so much as recreation. So nutrition will be one. Sleep. Sleep is where I've been talking a bit more. I didn't give much importance to sleep until about a year ago, and I'm 47 now. So 46 years of my life, I did not give importance to sleep. And we're going to see how important is sleep. Emotional health. So we need to be within a community till the end. We can see people from 60, 70, especially in hospital where I work. I see lots of people living by themselves, not having a support community, not having a community of friends, family even, family living far. And loneliness is something that can actually kill as well. So it's something that people should be finding a way of having health when it comes to emotions as well. Now, well, we are Christians, so we believe in forgiveness, isn't it? And we all know what happens when you don't forgive. We just live an unnecessary life of suffering. So, the fifth element will be supplements and hormones. So, especially for women, but also for men, after a particular stage of life, when women get into their menopause, and for men it will be andropause, hormones is something very important. So there's lots of things happening in the woman's body after menopause that can be controlled when people have a hormonal therapy. I mean, often people refer having a shoulder pain when on menopause. That's down to estrogen being too low. So when we top it up, then it's the pain goes away. It's very interesting to understand as well how women can lead a stage of life in a very in a better way. Now, I'm going to talk a bit about sleep now. And if you have to guess, what would be the number of hours you need to sleep? Mario, what would be the number of hours? 8 hours. Anyone else?
9.
9. 10. If you are a teenager, yes, 10 will be the one. All right? Up until 12, 15, 10 to 12 is actually better. But when it comes to adults, and the majority of us are adults, 7 to 9. In 8, for a lot of people, the sweet spot. Now, how can you know if you have enough sleep? Any guess? You don't feel tired when you wake up. Anyone else? You're not sleeping during the day. Now, when you wake up, is it with the alarm or you're already sleeping on a light mode? Is it the alarm? Alarm. Now, if you feel groggy when you wake up, like very unsettled, it means that you're probably on a REM sleep, which we're going to talk about in a second. So, meaning you were dreaming. The REM sleep is when you dream, is when you consolidate emotions and memories. Now, if we have a moment of, let's say, we're waking up at 6 o'clock, but 5 to 6 you're already rolling left to right. It means you have a light sleep already. That's how we should wake up. We should wake up with a light sleep. Because when you wake up on a deep sleep or REM sleep, then your body is not ready. It's going to take a while for you to be functional. Now, consequences of inadequate deep sleep. In UK, we have the average of 6 hours and 49 minutes per citizen. Meaning, on average, people don't sleep 7 to 9 hours. Now, consequences will be memory and learning will be affected. Because, like I said, consolidation of memories, creativity, emotions, it all happens on REM sleep. But also on deep sleep when it comes to memories. Now, immune system function as well is affected when we don't sleep enough. Blood sugar and weight. So it's another problem when people go to bed very late and they don't sleep properly. On the next day, they're ready to eat everything they find. Of course, it's down to individual. But when it comes to human body, human chemistry, it takes one night of bad sleep for you to have insulin resistance, which is something we're going to talk about further. So one night is enough to mess everything up. Now, cardiovascular health, if you don't rest, if you don't recover, if you don't repair, then your heart will be another organ that will find itself in trouble. Now, consequences of inadequate REM sleep. Now I'm going to separate now REM sleep with the non-REM sleep, which is the deep sleep. Now REM sleep, like I said earlier, emotional regulation and mental health. A lot of problems of depression and anxiety these days is related to sleep and bad nutrition. So creativity and problem solving, social and... Do you find sometimes people are very grumpy? Yeah. They get irritated by anything. Sometimes it's due to not sleeping properly. Pain sensitivity and physical recovery. If you don't recover, you'll be in pain. You'll have inflammation throughout the day. And why am I talking about sleep? Because there's no point about talking about nutrition if I give you a meal plan of tips, but then you don't know, you don't do this properly. That comes number one. If we have a good night of sleep, then we can talk about everything else. But it's pointless of starting actually exercise and not sleeping because we're not repairing. And we take longer to recover from one exercise session to the other. And that's not what we want to achieve. Now, short-term health impacts of poor sleep. Impaired attention and reaction time. People actually get slower, according to studies. Mood changes and irritability and weakened immunity, so we've been through this. That's short-term. But when it comes to long-term, we have increased risk of dementia and Alzheimer's, chronic diseases, cancer risk, and genetic changes. Actually, they found that the DNA of cells actually change because of bad sleep. So that's the first step I'm going to talk today, because that's what it takes for you to create an environment where you're actually ready to start correcting whatever you need in terms of nutrition. Now, any questions so far when it comes to sleep?
I think you said it. What about, does it matter what time you sleep? Because
Good question.
most of us, we work shifts, days, nights, long
There
days.
was a study
Yeah, so,
of 120,000 nurses in England, and they saw that people that were on shift works, they struggled the most. And I've done plenty of nights. So on COVID, I was working in ITU, and yes, I did my share of nights as well. And one day there was a health doctor that came from Brazil, and he was talking in one of our Portuguese-speaking churches. And I've asked him in the end, so what do I do when it comes, because I work shifts, same question as you do. And what he told me, he was from South Korea, but he lives in Brazil, he speaks Portuguese. And what he told me, David, change work. Change job. Now, I looked at him and said, but that didn't help me. So, I'm going to give you some hints or some tips, but the ideal is do not do night shifts. That's the ideal. Now, if it's not possible to get away from night works, at least do not eat at night. So when I did my last night, which probably about 6 months ago, I've decided, because I was going through all of this learning, and everything I learn I like to put it in practice. So I'm my first guinea pig. And what I did is, I had a dinner around 8, 9, and then I only ate around 6 a.m. Why did I do this? Our body has something, as you probably know, called circadian rhythm. That means that our hormones, they're all worked and they're planned by God to work in a certain way. When we disrupt this with our lifestyle, modern lifestyle, we're not going in line with God's intention. We're going against. But I understand, and I'm not judging. I've done it myself. But every time we go out of God's plan, then we have to think of consequences. So it's like a trade-off. I mean, you get your job, but you're trading something for it. You're giving your energy, but you're giving a bit of your life as well. Now, if you understand hormones, we have to see at insulin as the driver, kind of as Uber, for glucose. Insulin, it's very active in the morning, it starts to get less active in the afternoon, and it's very inefficient at night. And that's for a reason, because melatonin, which is the one that makes you sleepy, and then ready to sleep, it's acting in opposite directions. So for melatonin to go up, insulin needs to go down. Now, if you are pushing yourself to work on a night shift, then melatonin is being kind of pushed away by the lights that hospitals or whatever environment you work have. And you're pushing yourself into a rhythm that is not natural. So that means whatever you eat that night, it will give you trouble, either in weight gain or cardiac problems. So on that study of 120,000 nurses, they found that they were more prone to diabetes, type 2, and more prone to cardiac problems. So cardiac arrests, and I've met a few that actually they were struggling with that. So my advice number one is do not do nights, respect your rhythm, but whenever you have to, do not eat. Just do a fasting with water or teas, but no tea with caffeine. Now, but that's a very good question. The other common question is, what about caffeine? I mean, we're all Seventh-day Adventists, aren't we? But it's still a hot topic. There's a few hot topics in the church. I love it. I love the challenge. And caffeine is one. So, how much do you think we should drink of caffeine? And by the way, caffeine is not only in teas, coffee, but it's also in chocolate. So chocolate has caffeine. So my mom likes to eat a square of dark chocolate, 70%. But she does that nighttime. Now, how long do you think caffeine lasts? And I told my mom, I said, Mom, you cannot eat at night. Do it in the morning. Okay. I'll put it in breakfast. So she's still happy. But how long do you think it lasts, caffeine? Give a guess.
4 hours.
4 hours. More.
12 hours.
6 hours?
Nothing. 12 hours.
So there's something called half-life, which is how long it takes for half of it to still be in the bloodstream. It takes about 6 to 8 hours. That's the half-life of caffeine. The problem with caffeine is that it sits on top of something we have in the brain called adenosine receptors. Adenosine is something that is linked to energy, and it keeps piling up in the brain just to at the end of the day, you feel sleepy because that keeps buffering, and the receptors get full, and then you get sleepy. That's, again, how it should be. When caffeine, which is very similar to adenosine, is in your bloodstream, it goes into the brain, and it goes and sits on top of the receptors, giving no space for the adenosine to actually go there. So when the half-life of the caffeine goes away, completely erased from the body, the adenosine that is flooding in your brain will go into the receptor suddenly because they're dying for it, and suddenly you have a crash, that common coffee crash. So that's because of the adenosine being messed about during the day, and then at night it goes there or whenever people stop drinking. So, if you have caffeine, which you shouldn't, but if you have, then it should be no longer than 10 o'clock, maximum lunchtime. Ideally not, but again, I'm not judging, all right? I'm a bit, but that's fine. Yeah. Now, proteins. Anything about sleep that you want to ask?
What about some people, they go maybe, they ask for sleep medications.
Yes.
I don't know, maybe they are really struggling to sleep. Maybe your doctor can give you medication to sleep.
I had I think she's an anesthetist. I had an anesthetist saying that, every night I have a bit of a glass of wine and I pass out. I'll just... So they've done that study as well. What happens when people have alcohol? So when people have alcohol, they actually they get fragmented sleeps. So that means they will never hit the deep sleep or the REM sleep. It will be fractions. They will be waking up all the time. So a person that drinks alcohol at night will wake up more tired because they actually didn't achieve the hours. Now, when it comes to mealtime, we have to look at 2 to 3 hours before, being the last one, the lightest of the meals. And that could be something, for instance, whoever likes Greek yogurt or soya yogurt. I mean, both options are very good for an amino acid called tryptophan, which in turn gets converted to serotonin, which in turn gets converted to melatonin, so aiding the sleep. So what we should avoid at night when we sleep is too much carbs. Because carbs, like I said, insulin will be very inefficient, and when you wake up, your fasting glucose level will be high. So the night meals should be a combination of protein and fats, healthy fats, which could be nuts, it could be almonds, it could be anything that can put, like strawberries even, because that's low glycemic index when it comes to fruits, but nothing heavy. And I've seen that's a big problem for a lot of people. They have their heaviest meal before sleep, and then they put themselves in trouble when it comes to sleep, when it comes to managing their sugars well, and when it comes to weight control. So the best advice would be at night, 2 to 3 hours before have that meal, and then do not drink much, because if you have a full bladder, then you will wake up around 2 a.m. to go to the toilet. Again, you disrupted your sleep. Avoid white lights. At night should be yellow lights, or what they call the warm lights. And avoid technology. I know for teenagers and adults, so adults cannot talk about teenagers because adults go on their phones as much as teenagers do, right? And yeah, it should be an hour before sleep time. We should not be with technology. Just read the Bible as a good Christian. Right, now, when it comes to nutrition, I'll start with proteins. Actually, Mario was saying that there is something that the youngsters like to do. We can do a pause now and then do the second half after. Yeah? We can stop now and then we can carry on. Or shall I carry on? Yeah. Yeah. So we'll give a break now. If you have more questions about what we spoke, I'm more than welcome to answer it after. The second half will be more practical when it comes to nutrition. All right?
Thank you, Brother David. I want to ask if somebody saw Jesse. Ready, children, all children, you are ready for Bible contest? Yes. Yes. Pathfinder, they are ready? Yes. Let's wait for Jesse. He's coming in a minute. Okay. No, I just okay. No problem. We will have two groups. Yes? Children and adults. Doesn't matter. But I think there are more people in this side than this one. So maybe some children can cross in this. Jesse is here. Yes.
God is good. God is good. All the time.
God is good.
Yeah, sorry for being late, by the way. That's good. So we're going to play two games. The first one will be centered, both of them will be centered in the Bible. So I'm already told that we're in two groups. That's good. So the game is quite simple. I'll be mentioning Bible characters. And then, the first game is in the Bible. Because we are talking about health, each team will be given 10 minutes to pick a dish from the Bible and then write down the ingredients to make that dish in the Bible. However, there is a catch. So the catch is, you are not allowed to use your phones, only the Bible. So can I see everyone's phone? You can switch it off or put them aside, please. No cheating, basically. And so what we would do is, can we all gather together as a group? So for this side, maybe in a circle, and then work together. Same for this side as well. And because we are discussing about health, I want And because we are talking about health, as a team, decide on one dish in the Bible and try to write them down, the recipe for those dishes. The team that is able to write the most recipes will win. Does anyone have any questions? Yeah. So the team with the most ingredients would win. Is everything clear so far? Okay. Guys, I want total silence here. I want total silence on explaining the game. So, you pick one recipe in the Bible, and then you write down the ingredients to make that recipe. You can't use your phone, you can only use the Bible. So I could give you a clue, let's say Passover meal, or something like that. And then try to write the recipes that were listed in the Bible. The group with the most ingredients will be the one that will win.
Most ingredients for that recipe.
Yeah. Okay. Can I ask the kids to get the Bibles? So each team has 10 minutes. The time starts now.
Mommy.
Yeah, just write the notes. I use the notes to make it. No, you can't use it, you just can't say it. Well, let's make it so I think I need it. What does it say in the number? What was the other verse say?
You guys have 5 more minutes. 5 more minutes.
What type of fish do we think? Because that's snapper.
One more minute, church. One more minute.
Was it fish? It's a comic art.
Five, four, three, two, one. It's over now. Guys, stop everything you're doing now. Time's out, time's out, time's out, time's out. Time's out, time's out. How did everyone find the quiz? How did everyone find the quiz? Was it hard? Was it easy? How was it? Okay, that's good, that's good. So what we are going to do now is, I want each group to pick one person to come here and name the ingredients they were able to write down. Who wants to go first? I want each group to pick one person to come and stand here. I'm going to start with this group. They seem very decisive, so anyone who's almost. Okay, can those two people come and say the ingredients they wrote down? Stop writing. I saw you writing.
Everything. Yeah. The will be the winner. Thank you. I think for us, you know, we weren't very good at giving the verses, but when we tell you the story, we know you're going to agree with that this is really written. I think the first one, we looked at the story of Jacob and Esau. You know how they prepared a meal? Yeah, somebody cheated his brother there, and we think that goat broth. We needed water, there's leaves in there were spices, there were herbs, there was goat meat, and lots of spices, herbs, curry, onions, garlic, spring onion, thyme, cloves, and even tomatoes, salt. Then we also considered the last meal, the last supper in the Bible, isn't it? Before our Lord was crucified. So there was bread made out of wheat flour, water, and oil. And they said that they dipped into a soup. So we think that soup was made of vegetables, herbs, water, salt, fish, goat, pumpkins, carrots, potatoes, and spinach leaves. We also consider that Jesus said that the factor of that is the two fish and the bread. So we think that fish, it was a snapper fish. So, yeah, red snapper, not just. Yes, red snapper. Which one? Oh, virgin snapper. That was the kind of fish we used to use. And salt, of course, seasoning if you're going to roast it. And the bread was made out of, was it barley flour? Yeah, yeast and oil. Elisha also, isn't it, that he asked for a meal from the lady there, and she made a meal out of flour and oil. So come and join our group if you want to hear some more meals.
Thank you very much, Francine. So, before we go to the next group, what I want you guys to do in the meantime is write down the number of ingredients in total, and then that would allow us to decide who will be the winner. So while they decide their ingredients, please write the number of ingredients. Who is representing this group? I can see a whole list.
Unleavened bread made from eggs, water, flour, salt, and oil. Normal bread. Oh yeah, the verse was from Genesis 19 verse 3. Normal bread from Genesis 27 verse 17. Yeast as water, flour as salt and oil. Genesis 25 verse 29. Red stew made from salt, lentils, tomato, water, herbs, spring onion, garlic, red pepper, and just no onions. And then in Matthew 21 verse 33, wine made from red grapes. Exodus 12 verse 7, lamb and unleavened bread, which is made from lamb, oil, parsley, herbs, salt, peas, carrots, and potatoes. And then 1 Samuel 17 verse 18, cheese made out of butter.
Well done, everyone. That was really good, and I love the verses that everyone wrote. So now, each group has 1 minute to count the number of ingredients. No, different. It shouldn't be repeated. So unique. Yeah, so unique ingredients. So you have 1 minute, and that will decide who the winner is. Please do not add any new ingredients. Please. Are you guys ready to hear the winner of the first game? So, the second place had 21 ingredients. And that goes to this team over right here. And now, I'm sure everyone wants to know how many Auntie Margaret and Francine got from their broth, bread. They had 38 ingredients in total. Sorry? And the main purpose of this game is, as Adventists, our health is important. God has made that clear that our health is also important. And when we read 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 31, it says, wherever we eat or drink, we need to do it in the glory of God. So with this game, we're reminded of whatever we use to make our food, and make sure whatever we are doing it to glorify God. So well done, guys. And as a gift for the first place, I've got some chocolate coins, but I'll be giving it to the children in the winning group. Give the adult one some. So that was the first game, and now on to the second game. But with the second game, I will need everyone's involvement. So what we will need everyone to do is to get up from their seats and form a straight line in this middle.
We are not running. We are not doing a marathon.
You guys can stand in any order. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Just in any order. But the line is to be straight.
Oh, straight line. Okay.
Straight line. Let's go to the
Not in groups, no?
Any lines, right?
Or any lines?
No, not in groups.
Okay.
Any format. But it needs to be straight.
Okay.
Just straight. It'll be fun, I promise.
Should we open that door, maybe?
Yeah.
We're taking the picture. This is what we need now.
Is everyone okay?
Yes.
Okay, so the game is quite simple. I'll be mentioning Bible characters.
Oh.
If the Bible character is from the Old Testament,
Okay.
move to your right.
Uh-huh.
If the Bible character is from the New Testament, you move to the left-hand side.
Okay.
Now, here is the catch.
Uh-huh.
As soon as I mention it,
Uh-huh.
you move. Don't wait for someone to move and then you follow. And if you are wrong,
If you are wrong,
you are out. And remember, guys, there are chocolate coins to be won. Take it serious.
Is this, what side is this?
So you're right hand.
Yeah, I mean like...
So Old Testament. on the
Old
right-hand
Testament,
side.
New Testament.
On the left-hand side.
Old, new. Okay. Old, new.
start with the easy characters that everyone knows, but as it gets faster, it's going to get harder.
Okay.
If you make a wrong mistake, decision you're out. If you are slow, you are out.
Okay.
Is everyone ready?
Yeah. Now we forgot it. Hey.
Old.
Odd. Yes. Yes.
And this is how you move. Old.
Okay.
They are not in the queue.
Yeah, Francie. Yeah, Francie.
Okay, are you guys okay?
Also, it's the same as Jacob. Odd.
No.
Matthew. New. Odd is here.
No.
Odd is there. I'm getting confused. Odd is this way.
I'm going to stand here so that I can observe everyone.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
That's good. So I'm going to start it easy and slow. Jesus. This one is a try. So can we go back to our original position? Are we ready?
Yeah.
Jesus. Moses. Abraham.
If it's the same place, we just stay there. Don't move it.
Yeah,
Just stay there. It's the same place where we are. Okay. This is old.
Sorry? Oh, that's a good question.
What is it?
So let's say so they asked for characters such as Abraham. They are both mentioned in the Old Testament and in the New Testament. What should they do?
Where they first appeared. Where they first appeared.
Where they first. So, if a Bible character is mentioned both in the New and Old,
Yeah.
where they were first mentioned in the
Yes.
Bible, that's where you.
Yeah.
But now they are to the right side. Yes, they
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we are still on the thing. We are on the old. Yeah. So the question will tell us where we move.
That's good. Peter. John. Dorcas. Dorcas is in the Old Testament.
I was here. Jesse.
And this is the old side.
Okay, Dorcas. Let me explain. Dorcas, also called Tabitha, is in the New Testament. So now can we come back to
Let's go forward.
Can we form a straight line, guys?
I'm still new. You are.
No, wait a minute.
We are in the middle now. We are in the middle.
Like I said, you only get harder.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll be speaking louder. Joseph.
Hey.
Which one? Which Joseph?
Which Joseph? Yes. We have one already.
Okay, so Joseph, son of Jacob.
Son of
Adam. Eve. John, Paul, Malachi, Habakkuk. Habakkuk.
Habakkuk's in the old. Habakkuk's in the old.
Yeah. This one. Not this. Same to you. David. Peter. Peter. Yeah, Peter. So I'm going to speak louder. Peter, you're out. Okay, sorry. Judah. Judah.
Son of
Judah. Now you are in. Who's Judah? Judah. Okay, because everyone did not catch it, I'll repeat it again. So everyone is standing at the New Testament, right?
Yeah, New Testament, yes.
Okay. Samuel. You're out. Naomi. Naomi, you're out, please. Come closer, please. So we have our 7 finalists. Okay, that's it. Now I'm going to go. Sorry. No, that's fine. So can we now start in the middle? That's good. Now I'm going to go a bit faster now. Are we ready? Okay. Ezekiel. Haggai. Elijah. Ham.
Sorry?
Ham. I told you it will be harder.
Yes, yes.
Well, if they will stay here, they can't get it.
Yeah.
Naomi. James. You're out. James.
James.
In the New Testament, yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. Zebulun. Somebody out. I believe Zebulun is one of the siblings of Joseph.
Yes.
Like I said, it will be now harder. Are you ready?
Yes.
Elijah. Elisha. Herod.
Herod.
Herod, yeah, everyone is out.
Everybody's out. Roof is the champion.
I am the champion.
What do you think is having fun?
Yes, but thank you everyone for participating. This was to help us sharpen our Bible knowledge by knowing these Bible characters. These Bible characters have a huge role. We read their lives every time we open the Bible. And it's good for us to be familiarized with their life, learn the lessons, and also apply them. I hope everyone found this entertaining and fun. And hopefully I'll see you next time. But thank you so much for participating. Any kids that want chocolate?
Okay. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you very much. And we continue for the program. Are you ready?
Yes.
Please, David.
Thank you.
All right, so at least we did some exercise, isn't it?
Amen.
We found a place for the sugars. Fantastic. Now, before carrying on, anyone wants to ask anything else about sleep?
Yes.
Yes, my question is, we saw that there are consequences of lack of sleep, but of course you can't let's say you can't top up yourself sleeping 20 hours for 1 week, but is there any negative effect if you oversleep regularly, more than 8, 9 or 7, 8, 9 hours as an adult?
Very good question. So basically what the studies are showing is that for adults, below 7 and above 9 is as bad as below 7. And if people are so tired that they sleep more than 9 hours, something is wrong. So either they're not getting enough, all the stages of sleep, or something is happening on the background. It could be a virus, it could be something else, but it could be an infection, it could be even any problem related to metabolism, which we're going to go and speak about a bit. But when it comes to sleeping times, they've actually done a study, and they put some volunteers inside a cavern where everything was dark. And they stayed there for a number of days. And when they went inside, they were having a normal circadian rhythm, meaning they started to sleep, let's say, around 10 p.m., and they would wake up between 6 and 7. By the time they left, they were sleeping. They didn't know when was their light. They were sleeping between 12 and 7. Meaning, the light is what teaches our brain when it's time to wake up and when it's time to have another night of sleep. Basically, if the sun wakes up, sun is up about 6 a.m. and you look at the light, that will tell your brain that's when your circadian rhythm starts. When people, for instance, I wake up at 5, I don't see light. So, I think the best way is our lives are not in line, society, the way it is, our works, our schools, it's not in line with what God wanted, which was the sun as our day guide, let's call it, and then at night, moon. So people would go to sleep when it was dark. With fire came people gathering around the fire. That was the yellow light of today. So anything white light, it disrupts the normal sleep. And it pushes the sleep further. Now, if we wake up, because we have, let's say, a job at 4 o'clock, we wake up at 3 to get ready, and then you go at 4. Because it's not in line with light and darkness. So, in our society, we need to make an effort in order to actually try and get in line as much as possible. For instance, we don't walk as much. We don't exercise as much. We have buses, we have cars, we have taxis, and we go from A to B without walking. So that's another thing that we need to actually, some people say, oh, if you have to use the bus, stop the station before and then just walk if you have the time. So with sleep is the same. We need to make the effort. How many of you want to go to bed at 9? I don't. But if I go at 9, it's much different than if I go at 11. I will get all the stages of sleep, and I've done that experiment because I've got a watch to help me track my health, and it gives me the stages of sleep. It's all in line with our heart rate. So when we are resting, the heart rate goes as lowest as it goes, and then when you wake up, let's say your bladder is full. The bladder is connected in somehow to the brain and heart to tell the heart to raise the heart rate, because it wants to wake you up for you to go to the toilet to empty your bladder. So the body has a way of designing everything when it comes to our rhythm of life. But we have to make the effort to try and make our lives in line with what God actually wanted initially, because I mean, if you look at technology, we were not raised with that. Adam and Eve, they didn't have that. So if you go to Noah, if you go to all the characters that we're talking about now, they all had sun and moon to guide the circadian rhythm. Now, if you wake up in the dark, there's actually apps with yellow light mimicking the lux, which is the unit of sunlight, so that people can start seeing that light, even though it's not sunlight yet. Okay? So there's something that some apps can actually try and help people with getting that fixed circadian rhythm, as in the moment you wake up, you have about 16 hours when you go to sleep again. Right? But 7 to 9 is the sweet spot. Over 9 is bad, below 7 is bad as well. All right? Now, the ideal time would be 9:30 to 10 p.m. So sometimes we get drawn into our habits. My wife came from Brazil, and she had the habit with Sophia of every Saturday night watching a movie. And watching a movie with popcorn. Right? It's just an habit. And it's as hard, an habit is as hard to break as it is to create, but it's an habit. But sometimes I tell them, listen, I want to wake up, I don't know, 7 tomorrow because I need to do this and that. If you go to bed at 11 or 1 o'clock in the morning, I mean, we can watch the movie tomorrow. Sometimes, I know for teenagers especially, they get all these distractions, and it's hard to be a teenager these days. I was a teenager at 12, and there was no internet. But I remember my mom buying a computer, and the first computer ever that came, and she put it in my room. Bless her. I mean, any nights of the weekend, I was going to be drawn to the games that the computer could give me. And I spent nights just playing games very quietly so that my mom wouldn't wake up. So it's not easy for kids to have technology inside their rooms, and teenagers, and even adults. Because sometimes we have to discipline ourselves in thinking, okay, if I want to invest in my health, not only for today and tomorrow, but for 30, 40 years' time, I actually need to make the effort. So instead of watching the movie, we actually have to go to bed at 10, even on a weekend. And it makes the whole difference. But when we don't pay attention to our health, somebody will pay attention to us to look after us, because we didn't look after ourselves.
Just another question regarding this season of the year. We are going. We are setting the clock tonight. Yeah. So this is something affecting all of us. So do you have any advice, or have you read anything about it? Good thing we can do, because to be honest, it's as a parent, it's not easy to tell the kids what time to wake up from tomorrow, and any idea or any.
Again, this is a tricky country to live in, isn't it? Because we have 4 o'clock, 4 p.m. is already night.
Yes.
I mean, are we going to bed at 5? We're not. We should do as much as we can in order to at least do not go after 9:30, 10 p.m. latest. And I've done that experiment with the watch. Going at 10, going at 11, oh, it's so different. And I'm the same person, the same dinner, but it's just different times. So I think that, again, it's like a trade-off, isn't it? We sunset at 4, what do? Your body starts to wind down after 4 if you're not in the presence of white lights. If you're planning to go to bed at 7, then you're going to do the same things you're going to do if you go to bed at 9, which is white lights, use it as least as possible, and then no technology the hour before, and food's going to be 2-3 hours before bedtime. But again, I say, if you're going to go to bed at 7, then you have to have dinner at 4, 5. So it's not easy. This is why I always focus between 9 and 10, because that's more realistic. Because for you to create an habit, you need to be able to stick to it. Consistency is better than ups and downs. So, and the same goes for sleep. If you go to bed around the same time every day for all seasons, your body will be accustomed to it. But in order to help, in terms of the light when you wake up, those apps that today we have technology, we can use it in our favor actually. And those apps, just look for Lux app, something with Lux, mimicking sunlight. And that will be something that you can use when you wake up. Looking at that, a few minutes. Or if you wake up at 7 and it's now starting to be sunrise, just open the windows and get the sun into your face, because it's actually through the eyes that the brain absorbs it. Okay? But it affects everything, including testosterone. I had a guy, a brother from Oxford. He came to me, David, my breast tissue is growing. That's a symptom of low testosterone. And he said to me, well, what do I do? I'm feeling a bit off. Low testosterone makes you feel that lack of energy and lack of will to do stuff, especially exercise. But it starts on male, it starts to grow breast tissue. And I told him, you need to probably do a blood test. But after you do the blood test, you need to start exercising, especially leg exercises, either squats or deadlifts with a bar or with dumbbells. So there's a better exercise for testosterone, and the leg ones are the best because it's the bigger muscles, and the more muscles you use, the more testosterone you build. Again, our life is so comfortable these days that we forget to exercise. And when we do it, we start having these arrangements when it comes to hormones. And sleep is another one that if you don't sleep enough, hormones will go down, being estrogen for women and men, and testosterone both for women and men as well. Women actually have more testosterone than men, but they have it in different proportions. Not in quantity, they have in comparison to estrogen. Now, sleep-wise, are we all in line? What time you go to bed? Around? 7. So, yeah, 7. Yes.
Does having a nap during this?
Yes, no.
Does that help in any way? Well, I'll just suppose you didn't sleep well at night. Can you catch up a little during the day? And
Yes.
start off, or maybe better keep awake, just go early the next day.
Very good question, and reminds me something else. We cannot catch up with sleep. So whatever you lost, you lost. But naps, they're very good, but they shouldn't be longer than, you know, how many minutes? 20?
We can sleep an hour.
No? 20 minutes here? Who else? 60?
1 hour.
1 hour?
2 hours.
Anyone else?
2 hours.
What's your name? What's your name? Jason. 2 hours is too much, Jason. And the reason is, I'll tell you. So basically, when we start sleeping, the first stage is light sleep. And it takes about half an hour for you to get into deep sleep. And I told you that to wake up, you need to wake up on the light sleep. You can't wake up on the deep. You'll feel destroyed. Now, if you go over half an hour on a nap, not only you're going to wake up in the wrong stage, but you're going to mess the night one as well. So, for you to go to bed around 9:30, 10, you can't sleep during the day more than half an hour. 20 minutes, 25, like Sister here said. Yes?
So what about if you're a person that doesn't sleep well at night?
If you're a person that... So one thing that leads to bad sleep could be chronic stress. Chronic stress is another thing that sleep resolves, but also exercise. So sometimes people go to bed with their heart rate not in the resting levels. It's still high. And I've done this experiment. I normally run in the morning, and I'll talk to you a bit about running when you get there. And I've done the experiment of running in the morning and then in the evening, because I wanted to see what was the difference. When I ran in the morning, my sleep was perfect. When I ran in the evening, it was awful, because I went to bed with higher heart rate. So it takes longer to actually unwind.
Okay. Another thing is, I can't do the running like this. I was a sports person.
Okay.
Gravel, 200, 100 meters.
Well done. Sprinting.
I was, you understand? But I popped the UCL in the left knee. Never knew for years until sometimes I found out. Because every time I do a scan, they say nothing is wrong. I decided to get an MRI scan.
Okay.
I decided to get an MRI scan only to find out that USL has been popped a long time. Then the doctor asked me if I've ever fallen any time in my life that I couldn't get up. I said, yeah. Then when I saw the scan, everything, I realized I was supposed to get the operation on 2013. But that time they said I was too young. I wonder if I'm too old now. Still haven't happy.
Yeah.
If I'm doing any long walks or
You feel
but
it.
knowing me, I have a strap. I have the strap below the knee and up in the leg. I don't wear it most of the time now because it's like, what happened? You know what I mean? And I'm tired of that.
Yeah.
And sometimes depends on what, like tights I wear, it moves. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
So that affects my sleep.
Yeah.
And I got it just before the virus. I got into an accident on the London transport. I'm still battling it now because one of the therapists want to tell me what they want. I know a little bit better from those injections I used to get, steroids I used to get in the leg. I should not be having it anymore. But she just insisted that I should have it. And I said, no. I must have it in my spine now. I said, no. I've already have limited, so I'm not going to mess it up. So I'm waiting for another consultant to review. So,
What's your name, sister?
Huh?
What's your name?
Christine.
Christine. Christine, there will be those cases like yourself where a structure of your knee or whatever, sometimes it's the hip, that will be causing that inflammation constantly. And with inflammation, they call it the low-grade inflammation. It's not like you had a cut and now it's inflamed because it's the healing stage. No, it's a chronic inflammation. Chronic inflammation is linked to chronic stress as well, which is linked to insomnia. And yeah, I would advise it to.
But I'm a person who can be talking well and I can just nice and easy go up, leave you. And you talking. It's only, Christine! You hear me?
And when you do that, do you dream?
Dream?
Yeah.
Like during
Not all
the
the
day.
time.
No. When you do those kind of snoozing.
Snoring. I suffer with sinus as well.
No.
Sometimes,
If you dream, if it's like vivid dreams.
Do you have dreams during that time?
No? The reason why I'm asking is REM sleep, which is when you sleep, it's something that the body craves the whole time if it's in deficit. When I used to do nights, I did quite a lot of traveling, and sometimes I had to stop because I was very tired just to avoid an accident. And I would stay 15 minutes, so I had somewhere else to be and I didn't want to. Those 15 minutes I would be dreaming because the body just bypasses the stages of light sleep and deep sleep and goes straight to REM sleep because it's in deficit. So that's the only stage of sleep that the body tries to compensate through any time possible. And sometimes people would just go, and then suddenly it's 10 minutes that they've been like that, they haven't realized, and they actually drowned throughout those 10 minutes. It's the body, it's one of the symptoms of chronic fatigue.
Once I like flat, I just walk like a nice brand new car.
After that.
Just like
Your deep sleep.
When it comes to exercise, I'll give you a few hints, tips, just in terms of what you can do, forgetting about the leg.
but here too.
Oh, okay.
Was a lot as well because of the accident in the bus.
Oh, okay. Oh, the one you had in COVID.
In London,
Yeah.
in the in COVID time.
So, everybody except Christine needs to exercise. Okay? And I'll tell you why in a second. But Christine, whatever you can do, do it. Whatever you can. Within your reality. Yeah. Happy? Yes.
Just one question about sleep, because you mentioned the average sleep time is 8 hours a night for an adult.
7 to 9.
7 to 9. You will get someone who will say, well, if I sleep 5 hours, I'm good. I wake up fresh, I'm okay throughout the day. But if I sleep more, I'll probably wake up tired. If I sleep 9 hours, I'll be really tired the whole day. Then someone else will say, well, if I sleep 6 hours, that's good for me. Or another one will say 8 hours. How does that work in reality?
There's only 1% of society, about 5%, that can actually be okay with 4 hours. 4 to 5 hours, they'll be fine. And when I say be fine, means that they have no symptoms of chronic fatigue. That means everything else is perfect, but that's only 5%. Now, a lot of people, according to studies, they say that, but when they track it, it's very awful. The stages, they can't eat the stages, and they just think that they're eating, everything is fine. But when it's monitored, they actually don't have good sleep. But it's just kind of the awareness of some people is different than others. And some people might say, yeah, I feel fresh. But they actually not. So basically, the deep sleep, just for you to understand, why it says prevention of Alzheimer. There's something called amyloids, beta amyloids, which accumulate in the brain. And if it's not resolved, it's a toxin. If it's not resolved, that's what leads to Alzheimer. One of the causes. And one of the things that deep sleep does is literally throws liquid into the brain. It's like a washing machine. And then dispose of it. When people do not eat the deep sleep, they haven't resolved the beta amyloid problem. And they keep getting toxins in their brains. And eventually that will catch up. So the best way to know actually if you're sleeping properly is via a gadget. Either you go to a clinic, sleep clinic, and you have proper machines, or you have any Fitbit, Garmin, Apple, whatever watch you have, in order to have that kind of sleep option or features in the phone that can then, via the app, you can see everything. If I show you mine in the end, then you'll see, it will give you a graph with the light, deep, and then the REM sleep, and the moments that you are awake. And actually, if you turn left to right, it tracks as well. Mine does, but not all of them do. But the only way of finding is not by hearsay or by saying, is by actually tracking. Because our awareness not always is in line with reality.
Thank you.
All right? Yes?
The time of the hours of sleep start when you actually fall asleep, not when you go to bed.
Yes. So it's actually when you're just closing your eyes, that's when you start getting into that light sleep. And usually, if everything is fine, you fell asleep in the first few minutes, in a normal situation. When it takes too long, then something is causing that, which is, or if you're waking up at 2 to go to the toilet, and you can't get back to sleep, you stay an hour vividly awake, then something is wrong. So that's usually the symptoms that something is causing that sleep to be disturbed. All right? So yeah, if you go to your room and if you have still your phone with you, it doesn't count. Okay?
My question is it okay to process things while you're asleep, like in your mind?
So,
is that good?
Processing things. When you sleep, you do it. But what you're saying is awake, isn't it? If you're awake and just kind of thinking what your day was?
Not really awake. Like, for example, you have a problem that you need to solve, or a solution that you need to find. So when you get to bed, it's something that you're thinking about. So even when you sleep, it's a different type of sleep. When you wake up, you know I think I was probably awake sometime. You might come up with a solution even when you then wake up and then say, okay, let me try this. And then sometimes it actually works out. But that thing when you try to process things during your sleep, is that good? I used to do it quite a lot, especially when I was still in university, when I had quite a lot of assignments and quite a lot of things on my plate. Even when I go to sleep, it's a different sleep altogether.
Yeah.
And after probably 6 hours, you are awake, but you have been processing some things.
If you go to bed at 9 or 10, and if you have that kind of day and activity, brain activity, you wake up next day, if you hit all the stages of sleep, you'll wake up with a problem solving. Because that's one of the things that kind of sleep does. It just gives you not only creativity, but the problem solving ability. If you go, let's say, you go to bed at 9, let's call it 9, okay? And you wake up because you need to do something around 4 a.m. Now, alternatively, you go to bed at midnight and you wake up at 6. What do you think is best? Some people say, oh, I have an exam. I'm going to study till I pass out. It's best actually to go to bed 8, 9 and wake up at 3 and study, because then your brain will be ready and to absorb everything. And the problem solving will be there as well. But if you go to bed past 10, that's it. Next day, if you go at 11, midnight, 1 o'clock, next day you'll be very, brain fog is one of the symptoms, but you'll be very, very unsettling throughout the day. So yes, that's, if you go to bed around that time, university time, that's fantastic, that's ideal. All right? Anyone else?
Because it's dark very quick now. This autumn. I think me and my daughter, I'm going bed 7, 8 o'clock, but no, I'm sleeping, I'll stay. But all the time I said, God help me sleeping. Because sometimes I'm sitting in bed, I'm relaxed, the body and everything. But I said, God help me sleep, because next day I'm ready, fresh for everything.
And do you wake up fresh?
Yes, I know.
Yeah, fantastic. So that's I mean, the reason why I brought the topic of sleep is it's the first thing. If you don't have your sleep corrected, it doesn't matter if I talk about carbs, protein, it doesn't matter, because everything else will be messed up. And your brain will not be ready to make the good decisions. So sleep is the first thing, and I used to think that exercise was first. Actually, it's not. Now I put sleep, exercise, and then nutrition. That's my way of seeing. Now, getting into nutrition can be tricky because we all eat, and we all are experts in eating, isn't it? And when it comes to cooking, everybody has their own culture. So I've learned that Malawi, we have people here. I've learned Romanian, Hungarian, and other nationalities. Jamaica. Who else? Zimbabwe. Spain. So Ghana as well. So different cuisines, different cultures, different habits. Now, when it comes to proteins, inside the church we have that fight. Meat or not to meat. I think from a Christian perspective, it's not a sin to eat meat. Because in the Bible we have several examples. As long as we don't eat the unclean animals, then it's justified to the Bible. But we also know that it was not God's plan. So I think we should, and this is just me sharing with you what I feel, but we shouldn't be judging whoever, and that was, I mean, there's lots of topics that were discussed in the New Testament. to eat meat or not to eat, it was not the issue. It was more about things that were dedicated to other gods. That was so, and some people take a lot of things out of context from the New Testament. So from the Bible perspective, there's nothing that tells us it's a sin or it's a problem to eat meat. Now, when you go to Ellen G. White, then you'll see that she said that before the coming of Christ, we would have problems when it comes to animal eating, because it wouldn't be safe anymore. My position, and I'll share it with you with no problems, is I still eat fish. And I still eat it like once or twice a day, and I'll tell you why in a second when I talk about the macronutrients. But when it comes to all the other animals, I don't trust the process anymore, and that's why I stopped eating. And Ellen White, she was right when she said it, and she wrote it 150 years ago. If you look at the way animals are killed these days, and the way they're fed, and the way they're administered all the antibiotics to prevent... I mean, if we eat the meat, despite of cooking, we still eat whatever that animal lived, either through nutrition or even the way they died. So there's a lot of studies on topics. Is it better to eat animal? Is it better to eat plant-based? And I find that with vegan products, they're actually worse. And again, this is my opinion. All the vegan products, they put lots of sugar, fat, and salt, which causes all the sorts of problems. So if I have to choose between a plant-based burger or a bit of chicken, I'll have the chicken, if I have to choose. As long as it's not a nugget, because nugget comes with flour. And flour will give you a spike of sugars, which I'll tell you in a second why it's a problem. But that's again my opinion, and I'll share it with you. But when it comes to science, the things that they look at ideal proteins, they created something called DS. DS means digestible, indispensable amino acids. So basically they want to see after the food source goes through the stomach, they want to see how many amino acids come out through the small bowel. So, I'm not sure how big this is, the letter, the handwriting, but the first one is milk. So when you see the first number is 1, yeah, that's perfect. Just put it slower a bit more. Oh, thank you. So when you come to 118, that's this. This is the old way of checking. They check the poo, just to see how much, if there was any amino acids coming out through feces. But that's not very effective these days, because in the large bowel there's something mimicking the amino acids. So it just gives you a false positive at the end. So they're now looking at DS as the most accurate way of checking how much of the meat is actually absorbed. So the ideal number is above 0.8, and we can compare here. For instance, A protein isolate is 1.09. So above 0.8 is perfect for protein synthesis or creation of protein. But when you look at soy protein isolate, it's 0.9. So lots of people say, oh, no, on plant-based you're going to be weak. On plant-based you can't have the same amount or quality of protein. And when we think of protein, we can't think of only building muscles, because protein is much more than that. Do you know what protein is for? Yes. What do you think protein is for, apart from muscle production?
Energy.
Keep thinking, energy. Body can make energy of anything, but protein is not a favorite thing. You can make energy with debris of protein. You can make, but ideal from carbs, but also from fat. But the body, if it only as last resort, use protein for energy. Anyone on this side? Bones. Bones, bone density. But what else? Repairing, yes. So every time you exercise, I mean, if you walk 10,000 steps, you're going to be shredding not only bone but muscle as well.
But you can have too much protein as well, can't you?
Yes.
You can have too much protein as well.
You can have too much protein as well?
As it does.
Yes, and I'll tell you as well about that. Anyone else?
Growth.
Growth, yes. And you know what needs protein to grow as well? Cancer cells. But we'll talk about it in a second. Anyone else? There's something that you haven't said yet, which is transport. Yes?
Did it make like hormones and enzymes?
Yes, so they participate in enzyme production, and also they transport insulin is protein. And when you think about the LDL, which is, a lot of people think that as a bad cholesterol, is called low density lipoprotein. Lipo meaning fat and protein meaning protein. So basically proteins, they're important for everything. And especially above the age of 65, we need to think of protein to be increased a bit more because of muscle loss. Because something called sarcopenia, which is muscle loss, and osteopenia, which is bone loss. We can only repair it if we have enough and adequate levels of protein. Now, the nutrition guidelines say we should look at 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. For young people and for elderly, this is not enough. 0.8 is just enough for somebody not to get sick, but it's not enough in terms of being healthy. So it should be, especially if it's plant-based, it should be anything between 1.2 to 1.6, but that's not from the body weight, it's from the lean mass. So if you go on a scale that you go on top and it gives you all the things like body fat, fat-free body weight, muscle mass, bone density, that's the ideal scale, because then you can see how much of your body is lean mass, and lean mass will be muscles, it will be bones, it will be fluids, and that's your baseline to calculate how much protein you need. And it should be 2 grams per lean mass of body weight. Or, if you don't know, if you don't have the scale, it will be from ideal body weight. So if you, depending on your height, you can calculate, there's lots of tools in the internet, how to calculate ideal body weight from height. So when you look at that, then 2 grams of that body weight will be what we need. So for instance, if I am 178 centimeters, and then I know that I have, for instance, 58 kilos of just lean mass, everything else is fat, then that will be 58 times 2, that's 116 grams of protein. Now, when we look at options, you're going to see that if I'm plant-based, if I choose rice, oh, what did I do? There it is. If I choose rice, that will be below 0.8. So the absorption of rice when it comes to protein is not great. When we see peas, is the same. Pea protein is already above the threshold of 0.8. So if I have to choose options, if I'm plant-based only, then I'll be looking at lentils, beans, tofu, tempeh, which is fermented soy, and I'll be looking at nuts, almonds, walnuts, so pistachio. That will be the sources of protein for plant-based options. But if I'm choosing from an animal perspective, then I'll be choosing all the options without flour. So no chicken nuggets, no fish fingers. It will be either the fish or the meat, and that's ideally if they were fed with grass. Yes?
Can you eat too many milks?
You can. If you buy a package and you order all of it, that will be... Now, when it comes to fat, we'll be looking at probably, let's say you weigh 55 kilos, okay? And then you want to separate, you want to put your proteins, you want to put your carbs for energy, and then the rest will be for fats. Now fats, the healthy fats, they're important for heart and brain, but they can be toxic as well, because they have too much selenium. So selenium is a mineral that is very important as an antioxidant and very important for the immune functions. But if it's too much, it can get toxic. So, for instance, Brazil nuts, if you eat 2, that's it. That's your threshold of selenium. But it's also a source of vitamin E, which is important for immunity. and they have a bit of protein as well, but they're not the best source of protein when we're looking at proteins. So I would say a handful. So if you have a small hand, it's a small handful. Whoever has a bigger hand is a bigger hand. So, because that's down to your size. So more than a handful is too much. Okay? In one sitting. So peanuts can be very, you see, a lot of people have peanut butter. And they think it's actually a good source for muscle growth. It's not. Peanuts is about 0.4. So it's just a good source of, I would personally do not eat peanut butter because it's very allergenic. It creates lots of allergies. The best alternative will be almond butter. But that's 1 tablespoon and that's it, 30 grams, no more than that. Now, can I continue?
Yeah.
So, when people want to talk about weight loss, some people think that protein is actually best. And why is that? Anyone else have any idea? Why people go and talk about protein being good for weight loss?
Because it keeps you fuller for longer.
Keeps you fuller for longer? Anyone else?
Does it take, like, does it burn more calories?
Very good. You know your stuff, yeah? It's one of the, of all the macronutrients, the one that spends more energy to metabolize is protein. So you lose about 25%. So you have to invest in order to metabolize it. So that is very thermogenic when it comes to digestion. So it just promotes heat. But my question, the lady here said, can we eat too much? So what happens when we eat too much? Do you know? If you have a normal kidney function, it's not a problem. There's no studies showing that can be a problem. Now, the problem with kidneys, when you have a not so good kidney function, then yes, it can be a problem. But that's not what I want to think. I already said earlier, I gave a tip, a hint. I said something about muscle growth. Yes?
You said cancer cells.
Cancer cells. So imagine you're cancer, right? And you want to grow. What do you need? Glucose. And you said protein. Indirectly, you are correct. Because when we want to activate muscle growth, we need one of the amino acids called leucine and methionine. But when they're metabolized, they're a bit toxic. So there's studies now showing that when people when they have a higher risk of cancer, they should not eat too much protein, especially animal source. Because animal source, the difference between animal source and plant-based is the profile of the amino acids. It's the concentration, because to be a complete protein, you need 9 amino acids. So of the 9, 2, leucine and methionine, they're very high in animal, but they are actually lower in plant-based. So I think, in my opinion, the best way of doing it is doing a mix, if people eat meat, doing a mix of animal sources and plant-based. So let's say a lunch with something meat-wise, and then at night we can do what Jacob did. We can do a lentil stew. All right, with vegetables, and that will be light, lots of fiber, lots of good carbs, and as well amino acids. So that's the ideal kind of for whoever eats meat, is to stop decreasing the meat, especially red meat, and increasing the vegetable options, the plant-based options, in order to create a better balance. Because if in all the options of meals you're going to do chicken, turkey, it's going to be a problem on the long run. It increases the chances of a cardiac problem or cancer. So have you seen a big guy, a physio culture, getting to 95 like that? You don't. A lot of them die at 60 because they overate animal protein throughout their lives in order to grow and grow very big. So it's not functional, but it's safe to do 2 to 3 meals with that protein intake between 20 to 30 grams of protein, and that's enough. But it's individual based, so it's difficult to actually tailor it. I mean, if somebody wants to have an approach with a nutritionist, then they will tailor the amount of protein to have throughout the day. Okay, but the best way of starting the day is with with a protein source. Doesn't matter where it comes from. And the reason being is a lot of people eat cornflakes and milk and go to work. 2 hours later, they're starving. And because they're starving and they've activated the wrong receptors in the brain, they're going to choose whatever comes. And that will be biscuits, that will be chocolates, that will be snacks, whatever. Because that's how the brain is now. It's ready to do wrong decisions, to make wrong decisions. Now, if you start your day with protein, healthy fats, and some carbs, starting with protein and the fats, and leaving the carbs as much to the end as possible of the meal, when it's possible, sometimes everything is mixed, you can't separate, it's the best thing to do. Because it will give you satiety, and you're going to last 4 hours easily without having to think of another meal. So if someone wants to start their breakfast, whoever eats meat, they can start with boiled eggs, they can start with scrambled eggs, that's good, fats and proteins, and then they can eat some fruits after. Never start with the fruits unless it's a snack. Okay? Now what I do, it's just because if you're doing only fruits, then it's fine as a snack. You can have like a pear and an apple, for instance, an hour before lunch. That's the best time to have it. But if you have it at breakfast, 2 hours later you're starving. So you need to think of breakfast as something to last 4 hours. And then in the middle, if you need to drink water and have fruit, that's the best option in terms of snacks.
Sorry, we have to go.
That's okay. Nice to meet you.
Presentation.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Just thought I'd say, I'm a writer.
You are?
I'm a writer by profession. I'm a journalist and a writer.
Okay.
It's good, but I wish I knew you years ago.
Oh, thank you.
Because for me, sleep is something I very really do. But I've learned a lot.
I hope I inspired you some way.
Yeah, thank you.
For breakfast, do you have something like oats or like a porridge with fruit and that?
Let me skip here and then I'll answer. I'll hold that for now. And we'll go to carbohydrates. Now, these days people are having more problem when it comes to health because of carbohydrates. In the 70s, people thought it was because of saturated fat. And everybody saw from butter and from lard. Is it lard? The thing that they used in the past? And they started to have the alternatives to butter. But they decreased fat and they've increased sugar. So that didn't work. Now we have more problems when it comes to obesity because of carbs. And what I want to do today is to educate you in terms of identifying where they come from and the separation. So we have monosaccharides, meaning one source of sugar. That could be fructose, glucose. Then disaccharides, meaning two molecules of sugar. Now, oligosaccharides, meaning a few, that's about 8 to 10. And then we have polysaccharides. Now, polysaccharides is everything above 10. That will be starch, for instance. Now, when we come to understanding the cultures of eating, we know that starch is a big one. What's the starch in Malawi?
Corn.
Corn?
Most of the, yeah.
Yeah.
Potatoes.
Potatoes?
Yes, potatoes, the Irish potatoes, sweet potatoes, cassava.
Yeah, cassava in Brazil we have as well. What about Romania? What's the starch normal options?
Potato, no, potato and corn.
Potato and corn, not much different. What about Hungary? Paul, what's the starch option in Hungary?
We like potatoes.
Potatoes? Anything else? Spain? Ecuador?
Pasta. See, with
Pasta? Yeah.
with flour, corn flour.
Corn flour is quite common, isn't it? Now, when it comes to the options of carbs, if we eat too much carbs, the body will deal with it. But it will deal with it depending on the quantities. And sometimes you can use, if you're an active person, you can use it in energy, or it will just convert it to fat and store it. Now, if we eat one molecule, it's different than eating more than 10. Do you agree? So, the next one will be monosaccharides. So we have glucose, fructose, and galactose. And then these saccharides, table sugar is a combination of glucose and fructose. Now, when you look at fruits, what do you think fruits have?
Fructose?
Which one? Which one? Sucrose. Meaning glucose and fructose, right? The way they are transported in the body is different. So glucose goes to be converted in the liver in order to be converted into energy. Now it can go either stay there in the form of glycogen, or it can go into muscles. The body stores about 2,000 calories. Now fructose, on the other hand, goes into the bloodstream after in a small bowel, where it gets transported and go back to the liver. Now when you get there, fructose, if you're not active, then fructose will be transformed in something else because it's actually toxic for the body. So fructose has to be dealt with, and it goes in a different way. Have you seen people with bunions? Bunions on the growth on.
Yes.
That's usually because urea is high, and urea is a subproduct of the fructose metabolism. So a lot of people today have fatty livers, but they're not drinkers. And that is because fructose doesn't have a place to go, and it keeps adding in the liver, and then eventually creating as well visceral fat, and attaching that to the fat, to the liver, sorry. And that's something that can lead to many chronic diseases. So the problem today of the table sugar is not a problem we find in fruits. Because with fruits, the amount is very slow, and fruits come with fiber. And fiber resolves the problem in terms of the spikes of sugar in our bloodstream. Now, when we eat, for instance, if you have to think where table sugar is in what we eat, what would be the most dangerous product? Juices. Now, when we have juices, let's say before the meal, starting drinking, the glucose and fructose go straight into the stomach and then travels into small bowel. In 5 minutes is in the bloodstream, and you have a spike. That spike informs your brain that actually that juice is very good. Activates the reward center, creating now more dopamine, which is the hormone that we need for motivation. And that spike creates a hunger that was not there before, and now you want to eat more. Now, the UK guidelines say that we should drink a maximum of 150 ml in a drink, and at the end of the meal, never in the beginning. Now, think, you are a restaurant, you need to sell. What are you going to serve first to your customers? And what else do they serve? bread. Bread is what? A starch. In that sequence of starches, we have the polysaccharides, potatoes, corn, rice, pasta, bread, oats, beans, and I'll go back to oats in a second. And then we have peas and sweet potatoes. Now, all of these have lots of sugar, but not much fiber. The problem is when we have a big spike of sugar in our bloodstream is because fiber is not there. In UK, the average person eats 6 grams of fiber, where the ideal should be at least 35. There's no maximum intake. I normally eat 2, so I think like this. In the morning, I have to have 2 portions of fruit in the breakfast, and then I have 2 portions of fruit before lunch. Lunch, I'll have salad with whatever else, and then another salad at night. So I think 2 moments of my day have to be fruits, and 2 moments of my day have to have a salad. And a salad is half of the plate. It can't be less than that, otherwise it's not a salad. So, and when I start my meal, I always start with salad. If whoever was watching me, they watched me today eating salad. And then I go to the rest. And I leave starch as much as possible to the end. Because then the spikes of the sugar will not be there. Do you know those monitors for glucose? I wore it for 14 days. And I wanted to do an experiment. I wanted to see what was the difference between having the salad first or salad at the end, or not having salad at all. My sugar spiked to 7.8 when I started to have rice first. But when I started to have salad, it didn't go above 5.6. It's amazing, isn't it? So why is it so important to start with fiber? Because fiber, if it's a water-soluble fiber, which is salad, broccoli is something else. It's insoluble fiber, but the salad, the usual salad, will be water-soluble, meaning that will help me with the enzymes for digestion, but also that will create like a gel-like solution, where the carbs, when they get there, it's kind of a fishnet. It gets all stuck there, and when it passes the stomach into a small bowel, the body still has to spend time separating everything, because it's all down in a jelly stuff, in a jelly solution. If you have food without fiber first, there's no net. Everything is broken down, and in the bloodstream it goes straight into your brain, and that's it. You've activated the wrong kind of sensors in the brain to then make worst choices possible. But the problem is when you have a sugar spike, you also damage your body. You damage your pancreas, and on the long run, you create the perfect environment to have diabetes type 2. And body weight growing as well. Now, why is it important to understand where they come from? For instance, oligosaccharides, they have legumes, the lentils, the beans, the peas, onions, garlic, asparagus, bananas, artichokes. They have a few. Now, if I want to say someone to lose weight, where do I start? What do you think? What do we do with juicing? Do we still have it? No. If I have, the juice will be at the end. If I have. But ideally, not. Because then we are activating the wrong receptors in the brain. Now, if I have to now, we already said juices. What else? What else do we need to bring down to the smaller amount? On this side. Starch. So, if whoever wants to control their weight in a better way, they need to either reduce or eliminate bread, rice, potatoes. Not completely eliminate, but at least bring it down and put it at the end of the meal. Never start with those. And once the body understands that something changed, the body will change as well. Now, the quantity is everything. So when I say longevity is my favorite topic, it's because when we look at the blue zones, where Seventh Adventist in Loma Linda is one, but then you have a Greek island, Acre is the name, you have Okinawa in Japan, you have Costa Rica, and you have Sardinia in Italy. One thing was common to all of them. Most of them were on a Mediterranean diet, meaning lots of fruits, vegetables, legumes, and olive oil. Okay? Now, they all had something in common. They didn't eat much. And they actually ate meat. But they ate meat 3 times a month. They didn't eat meat every day. And blue zones meaning people which get to 95, 100 and over 100 living a normal life. Not only in their brains, but also functionality. They're riding their bikes still, they're hiking in the mountains. So one of the things they were very active. They were not eating much, so they were eating a bit below what they actually need. There's actually studies done in looking at, I did something about rice, in rats, where they see if they allow one group of rats eating as much as they can, whatever time they want, they have more chronic diseases and they die before the other ones that have less calories in controlled times of the day. So, like I said, my wife likes to watch a movie with popcorn. So that's something, it's an habit, because it's good, it activates the wrong part of the brain. And it gives you pleasure. It's a pleasure avenue. But we need to start making choices when it comes to our health in a rational way. Paul says in Romans 12, verse 2, that we need to be changed in our rational side and not let ourselves transform by the days we live in this society. Basically, if we want to say to someone, stop smoking, what would you say? What would you say to you? Stop smoking to your friend. What would be the first step?
If you want to live longer.
So educating the consequences of that. And then if he says, yeah, I'm going to stop, I don't know, I'll decrease a bit. Instead of 20, I'll smoke 15. Huh?
He went down a bit.
He went down a bit, but did he resolve the problem?
No.
No. What do you do to resolve the problem?
Give an alternative.
Alternative, meaning cutting and replacing with something. Yeah.
I wanted to say the same to say an alternative.
In order for us to make better choices, we need to cut any ultra-processed foods that activate the reward center. If you keep playing and toying with chocolates and crisps and this and that and cookies, you won't win that war, because that war is designed by an industry, which is the food industry, that made enough effort to calculate how long it takes to get one Pringle to your mouth, and the second, they calculated the seconds it takes for you to go from here to there. And they wanted to do it in a way, increasing salt, fat and sugar, up until the speed is like this. So that's the war you're fighting, if you having those kind of things in your life. So the best way is to actually replace it with something else. Replace it with fruits. That's the best snack possible. And keep to meals where breakfast, lunch, dinner, light dinner, and if you're snacking, it has to be with fruits. If you flirting with anything else, you will lose. You can't win that war, because that war is not fair. So we have a say in our choices, but at the same time, we are very limited when it comes to winning the war with our strengths only. We have to, of course, pray, like our sister does with the sleep. We have to do it with our food as well. To help us to get into that position where, you know what, that is not helping me, I'm not having it. Now that I know that is activating the wrong part of my brain, they've actually studied this. They put 2 people, and one was eating 800 calories of clean food, and the other one was eating 800 calories of ultra-processed, like a burger. And what happens with this guy is that he's having clean food, gets into large bowel. Large bowel informs the brain via a hormone called leptin to say, stop eating, I'm happy. Now, the guy here was eating ultra-processed food. And the ultra-processed food has a problem. It doesn't create leptin enough to get into there, but it creates another hormone that tells the brain, tells the reward center to keep eating, and the information doesn't get to the hypothalamus. So that is called the nucleus accumbens. That's the name of the part of the brain, but it's called the reward center. So whatever food you're using that activates the dopamine receptors, that's it. You lost the war, because that dopamine will make you eat more, and until you are over, I don't know, probably 600 calories, then you probably need it. So this is why I say the same advice we give to people to stop smoking is the same advice when it comes to changes in diet. You cannot win the war if you're fighting against ultra-processed foods. So the first thing to take away, which will be ultra-processed foods and fizzy drinks. That will be the first step. And everything else, keep it as simple as possible. If you want to use oats, oats will be the starch. So if you're only using oats, that will be a problem. So I do not eat oats, I do not drink oat milk, because it's like a sugar drink. But if I have one, I'll be having soy or almond, because they're different in terms of, they're not starch. But if I have to mix porridge, I will mix it with a yogurt that is rich in protein, and fruits. It could be strawberries, it could be blueberries, it could be banana. In the morning, this is where the body is more receptive to carbs. In the evening, not so much, especially if you exercise. If you exercise, you boost your needs for carbs.
I have a question. Are there any exceptions in terms of taking starch? For example, if someone is breastfeeding, do they have, more tolerance in terms of the amount of starch that they can take?
You know that kids should not eat starch up until 2 years of age, because they don't have the enzyme to break it down. That's why they have a lot of colics. But when it comes to breastfeeding, whatever mom has, the children will have as well. So if mom has a chocolate, there will be colics for sure coming on the baby, because the baby is not ready to get that kind of sugar. So I would say clean food as much as possible. I'm not against starch, don't get me wrong. But for instance, in Brazil it's quite common to mix potatoes and rice. Do you think this is wrong or is it okay?
Too much.
Too much starch.
Too much starch. We have to think about a car. A car needs fuel, but if you overfuel, everything will be in the flow, right? It's the same with cells. And I won't take too much, it's now 5:30, but I'm not far from finishing. But I want to show you something else called insulin resistance. Anyone knows what insulin resistance is? Usually diabetic people, they have a metabolic syndrome, meaning insulin resistance. So if I am a cell, I have something on the top which is a membrane, and on the membrane I have insulin receptors, which is doors. Okay? So insulin is the taxi, as I said earlier. It brings glucose, and if the body is healthy, the body is welcoming any source of energy because it's using. Now, if I have a patient, a person that is overweight, and that could be 10 kilos extra, it could be 50 kilos extra, it doesn't matter. The behavior will be the same. Body will say, I don't need that. So the way they do in order to not allow more energy into the cell is by creating insulin resistance, meaning that receptor is not working. It's just not happening. Now, there is something that breaks insulin resistance because which is exercise. Because when you exercise, there is inside of the cell there is a lift called GLUT4. Okay, GLUT4. GLUT5 is for fructose. So in the cell is GLUT4. Basically, once the body tells, okay, energy is coming, that GLUT4 comes to the door and is now waiting for that energy to be transferred by the insulin, and it brings inside the cell, and that's it. It goes and be metabolized in mitochondria, which is the power energy of the cell. Now, if that receptor is not working, is not welcoming insulin anymore, being diabetic or pre-diabetic, but that person goes and exercise, GLUT4 gets activated, because it doesn't need the insulin. Glutathione gets activated by exercise, muscle contraction, and running or walking fast. So any sort of exercise will activate that lift to come to the cell and receive that energy. Now, the problem with insulin resistance is the body is trying to not welcome energy anymore, but that cell or those cells, they need energy. They need it every day. Now, if there is resistance to insulin, that glucose needs to go somewhere because insulin didn't get into the cells. Now it goes into the fat deposits. But the body still needs energy. So the body will start behaving like this. I'm not getting enough energy, I'm getting a bit lethargic, so I need to preserve my energy. So people with insulin resistance, they don't want to exercise. That's problem number one. Second problem is the body thinks it needs energy, so the body wants to eat more. So people eat more, but they're not feeding the cells. They're feeding the fat deposits because the cells are in a state of insulin resistance. So the two ways of sorting this problem is, first, we need to exercise. Second, we need to start choosing sugars either at the end of the meal or choosing sugars that have low glycemic index. So instead of the starch, I'll go for the fruits because they have fiber. So anything with fiber is amazing. Fruits and vegetables, they are amazing sources of carbohydrates with fiber. So if I want to look, for instance, at a person with Alzheimer, usually they have insulin resistance in the brain. They call it now diabetes type 3, Alzheimer, because there's a link with the problem about insulin resistance. And how do I know if I have insulin resistance? So, for a male, if you put a tape measure measuring your umbilicus level, if it's higher than 0.9, then there is a chance of you having insulin resistance. But if you also have high blood pressure, it's another thing. If you have high triglycerides in your blood work, it's another cause. And the last one will be obesity. So if all those four, it's a yes, most likely you have insulin resistance. And the way of solving it is, like I said, cutting down on starch, bringing to the end of the meal, cutting down fizzy drinks, and increasing fruits and veggies. That's the only way of winning that war. And you need to stop eating ultra-processed foods. A lot of, a majority of society today can eat easily 80% of their diet ultra-processed food.
How about fruits and food that are high, not like natural in sugar, like beetroot or bananas and grapes?
Some people ask me, what about orange juice? Is there something problem? I just squeeze the fruits. It's a problem because you take away the fiber and you should just have the fructose. So the best way for fruits, beets, all of that, is to eat it. Eat it as they are, raw. So if you want to eat, if you want to do a smoothie, it's better than doing juicing because there's still fiber there. You're going to drink everything, but if you're drinking a smoothie, you should take the same time it would take you to eat everything that is there. Let's say you put 2 bananas, strawberries, you put, I don't know, you want to do a green smoothie, you put cucumber, you put green apple. Whatever time it takes you to eat all of that raw, is the time you should take to drink the smoothie. So you should never drink the smoothie in a go. Take 15 minutes to eat, just sip it for 15 minutes. And a lot of people they do that for breakfast. They just do a green smoothie, which is healthy. They put a carrot, beets, a whole cucumber, can put a lemon, and carrot, I said carrot already, and a green apple. And they mix, they blend it, and they have it. That's a whole meal. People are happy for 4 or 5 hours. But you should sip it instead of chunking it. To just prevent, if you drink in a go, you're going to have a spike in your blood sugar. And that's what you want to avoid. You always want to avoid the big waves of sugar spikes. It should be normal waves, but never a spike.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, I don't know if there any study or know anything about the is there good intervals in meals what everyone should keep, or it's I don't know, unique to let's say every people have some, I don't know, 4 hours is the best, other one 6 hours, other one 3 hours, so I don't know what is the right interval of having meals, and how many meals is if there is the right intervals, how many meals are healthy to have.
Everybody is different, but have you heard of people saying, and you probably have said it already, I don't know, oh, I have a slow metabolism. Have you heard of it? Nobody has slow metabolism. What there is people that eat less, the metabolism is slower. People that eat more, the metabolism increases the speed. So if, for instance, if a lot of people want to just have one meal a day, but when they have that meal, it's like the whole country. So it's a problem, because you benefit more from having smaller meals because of cortisol, which is the stress hormone. Cortisol is another driver for high insulin all the time, which is another problem for insulin resistance. So we should eat 4 or 5 hours between breakfast and lunch, and then I think preparation is everything. I always carry fruit and I always carry a bunch of nuts, and I have it in my bag. So if I need to, sometimes people are not hungry, they're just thirsty. So if you can use in between meals to drink water, and water should be drunk up until 1 hour before the next meal, never in the meal. Unless, if you don't have enough vegetables, you'll be thirsty. Because if you start with a salad, you shouldn't drink anything because you don't need it. But if people don't start with salad, then they'll be thirsty, and then they'll have something. Sip of water is fine. I mean, we don't need to get obsessed about it. But if you have to drink water during your meal, it should never be more than half cup, just a small, because it can delay your digestion as well and the enzyme activity. But your question was spacing of time. It depends what you eat, because if you don't put fats and protein, for instance, my salad always have pumpkin seeds, olive oil, olives, and avocado, always. And then I put peppers, carrots, the green leaves, cabbage. I put everything there, but the fats have to be there, because fats, they delay the stomach discharge. So basically it gets there and it gets slowly released from the stomach into small bowel. It works like in installments. You give a bit of fat, you close the sphincter of the pyloric sphincter of the stomach, and then while that gets sorted, it's all trapped here. So it delays the gastric emptying of the food. So if you don't have fat or protein in your meal, you'll be starving 2 hours after, especially if it's ultra-processed, like a bar. You know those things that, what do you call it, the oat bars, they say, oh, very healthy, one of fun. That's not healthy. Everything with the label and everything that is advertising, it means, you haven't seen broccoli being advertised ever. Because it's not necessary.
With the water, does it help? Some people say if you want to have a small portion of food, like if you want to cut the portion of how much you're eating per meal, would it help to fill it with water first, that maybe drink as much water?
Yes, if you drink half a liter an hour before, you'll be less hungry. Half liter an hour before, but not 10 minutes before, because you'll have empty, full stomach. So some people, some nutrition actually, they say have half a melon 1 hour before, because it's quite watery, and then people will be less hungry. But the best way is have some fruit an hour before, and that's it, or water, if you want to cut on calories. Now, the other way of restricting calories is through intermittent fasting. Now, I told you about insulin activity being higher during the day. So if you have to choose a time to eat, what will be the starting time?
10 o'clock.
Huh? 10. It depends what time you start your day. So I start my day and I go to the gym. And I spend there an hour, 45 minutes an hour. My body is now ready for insulin to work. But if I don't have much insulin on board, it's fine because exercise activated the cells to receive all that energy. So I'm ready to have a big breakfast, and then I have a snack in the middle of the morning, and then lunch. Now, after a snack in the afternoon, I'm starting to wind down. So I don't eat much. At night, I'll eat a salad. It could be with tofu, with something, or lentils, and that's it. I don't eat much more. And I try not to do it after 7 p.m. So I don't do a 16-8, which is the intermittent fasting, 16 hours of not eating and 8 hours eating. I don't do that, but I try and do 12 hours every day of eating and 12 hours of not eating. So that's my go-to routine. But everybody's different. But it's another way of cutting calories or cutting the energy that you eat throughout the day, which is restricting your window of eating. If you start at 8 a.m., try not to eat after 5, 6 p.m. That's already a huge step. And if you're watching a movie, just drink water. Now, exercise. And I'm finishing now. In 5 minutes, I think it's enough for us to finish. What do you think is the best exercise? Running or lifting weights? Because the next one is...
Walking.
What's the best exercise? One or the other? What do you think? Depends what you want to get. More. Sleep. Walking is very good. And actually, you spend more fat as a source of energy when you walk compared to when you run. When you run, you use more sugars in the form of glycogen, which is in the muscles and liver. Yes? Say again? Okay, incline walking. Then you're doing a bit of quads exercise as well to create that muscle growing. Who else? Swimming. But my question was, what's best? Aerobic? Could be walking, running. It could be aerobics in the swimming pool. It could be, or strength exercise, which is lifting weights. You can be housed. You can be at your home with dumbbells. Huh? Both. Now, when we look at, you said depends on your needs. The best, I mean, when you look at studies, it's amazing, and God wants us to be active. The best way of starting to run is walking. So you start walking, and then you start increasing 20 seconds of brisk walking, and then 2 minutes of normal walking, and then the next week, instead of the brisk walking, you start running 20 seconds, and then you walk normally for 2 minutes, and you start increasing that. They've actually done studies comparing how to manage chronic stress via medication and via running or walking, and nothing beats exercise. It's amazing. The more I study, the more I know I understand how God works and how He wanted us to be. Everything works better, and there's something in the brain that they realized that people that were sedentary, the hippocampus in the brain, which is where the memories are stored, started decreasing. Now, with aerobics, it starts expanding. They now realize that we can produce new neurons in our brain, it's called neuroplasticity, via running. And the better results is when the intensity is actually higher. So walking is good for fat losing, but running is best for our brain. Now, when it comes to strength exercises, when we contract a muscle, and that can be with body weight exercises like squatting or push-ups or sit-up, whatever, or with dumbbells, or with bars, or with bands, resistance bands, there's a good sort of options. When you contract a muscle, you create a tearing of the muscle, and that creates an inflammation, which is normal, and the body starts releasing something called cytokines, which is just a protein to try and repair the tissue. But at the same time, it releases something called myokine, which travels into the brain and starts repairing the brain. So now they see that in order to avoid depression, anxiety, Alzheimer, Parkinson, and dementia, the best thing to do is to contract muscles. And that doesn't have to be for you to be Mr. Olympia, but it has to be for you to get into your limits and start contracting those muscles. Now, the combination of everything and the right diet, you'll be what God intended you to be. And I finalize my message. You can ask questions if you want, but I finalize my message by saying, we're not saved through lifestyle. We're saved by the grace of Christ. But we're not saved to live the same life we were living. And if you want to be disciples of Christ and missionaries, we need to look after our bodies. So my intention today is not to, there's only one intention, which is educating. Educating for you to be having tools now in order to, when you are facing the moments of life where things get difficult, where emotions can get the best of you, you understand what to do. Your gut is linked to your brain. And the best way of sorting your brain is sorting your gut. There's no other way of doing it. And when we exercise and we eat the right way that God intended us to do, we'll have the best versions, not only physically, but spiritually as well. If you want to be living a long life in order to live that life for the glory of God, we need to live it in this way, because otherwise it's like Solomon says, not Solomon, I think it was David, he said that we live 70 years and the rest is just pain and suffering. That's not how we can do. So my hope today is that I can inspire you in some way that you make different choices going forward if you need to do those. All right? Any questions regarding this last bit? Or are we happy to close?
Does it count? Let's say.
Just one question.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
After you.
Just go.
I'll say like some people are saying it's 30 minutes, an hour of exercising, but it's what you need.
If it's walking is an hour. If it's high intensity, 30-40 minutes is enough.
Oh, right.
And I would prioritize morning. Because when you plan your day with the night before. If you want to go to the gym because your job starts at 8, and in gym or park or inside the house, doesn't matter. If you want to go to a place to exercise and you know you have to do it at 6, what time will you go to bed? Around 10. So people that exercise have the perfect environment to change their brain in terms of motivations and priorities. Because if you don't sleep, you don't have energy to exercise. So that's how it worked for me. I started running and exercising, and I started feeling, I'm too tired. I need to sleep. So I started then getting into all this information and learning everything about sleep. And I said, you know what, there was more to sleep than I thought it was. So I started correcting sleep. So one thing attracts the other. And your environment is not only yourself, inside how your brain works, but it's also your family. So anything within you, inside or around you, can affect the way you look at things and the way you set your priorities. For instance, if you have a trigger, let's say chocolate. Chocolate is a problem. And you say yourself, I'm not eating chocolate anymore. But inside of your house, somebody is eating chocolate. That person is now modulating the way you think, because you actually made a decision, but the environment is pushing you to something else. So you need to arrange your life in a way that sleep, exercise, eating, and the things around you are not pushing you to be the old self, but the new version that you want to be. You need to visualize the way you want to be, and then always think, is that going to help me, or is that going to push me away? It's the same with Christian life. We have to make choices in Christian life. Things that attract us to God, we should keep. Anything that pushes us away, we should eliminate.
It was
Same question. The time. Intensity, we should aim at intensity. 15 minutes to 30 minutes intense, that's fine. But if it's just moderate, 30 to 40 minutes. If it's just normal walking, 1 hour.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry if it took so long.
Really, really good. And what the chair said, totally invited for next time. You are officially invited now for next time. Yeah, let us know when it's good for you. So thanks to you and your family.
You're welcome.
Just only one question. You talking about chocolates or sweets or everything? Maybe time to time is good, but small portions. Maybe in a party or something like that.
I don't normally eat sweets, but I used to be addicted to chocolate. And my go-to chocolate was Mars and Twix. Those would be my two of them. And I ate it every day. And that was up until, I think, 2012. Now, the more I got away from bad foods, the less I wanted them. So it takes a while for you to repopulate your gut. And when your gut is, when you're feeding your good bacteria, that will be the things you're going to be craving for. If you're feeding the wrong bacteria, those will be the things you'll be craving for. So I'm not a superhuman. I'm as normal as you are. But the reason why I don't want it is because my body doesn't ask for it. So I think we all can get to that stage. It's not, I don't think it's a miracle. It's just the way things work in the brain as a result of what we normally feed. Another day I can talk about fasting. And fasting is a very good tool when it comes to help with the repopulation of good bacteria in the brain. Now, I did run a half marathon this year. And when I was running, I was eating sweets, the things that they gave me. So there's a time for everything. But, believe it or not, in the next days I had ulcers in my mouth. It was too much Haribos. But I needed energy because I was spending it. So it didn't create me a problem straight away, but it fed the wrong bacteria. So I don't like it. Next time I'll do something else, like another source.
There is a word, I don't know in English, in Spanish, temperancia. Temperance. Yes. I will practice that. Just my question, because today there is a small portion only, not very often. We prepared hot chocolate. With your permission. We finish with the prayer. Let's pray. Yes, please stand up. Gracias te damos, Padre Santo, por todas tus bendiciones, especialmente por hoy que nos acompaña nuestro hermano David y su familia. Gracias también te damos porque tú nos provees de todo lo que necesitamos cada día. Ayúdanos, Señor, a través de tu Santo Espíritu a poder guiarnos por el mejor camino a través de los consejos que tú nos das en tu palabra. En el nombre de Jesús, guíanos y cuídanos en esta semana. Amén.
Amén.
Have a nice week.
Amen.